As you know, every year we run Christmas Wish as part of the Heart Project in hospitals all around the world. We have teams go into hospitals and they set up a green screen studio and photograph the children that can't make it out at Christmas time. And then the editors jump in and edit a creative, really imaginative Christmas image for those families. There is so much work going on behind the scenes when it comes to the editing. We often have 100 editors working at the same time from different parts of the world. And so it's been really important this year to refine our process and to make sure that as the edits are happening, everyone knows which ones are a work in progress, which ones are finished, so that we can streamline these edits, sometimes up to 400 or 500 images that we send out at Christmas time, as a gallery to families. So I'm going to take you through the back end now of how we're achieving this in Lightroom and in Photoshop. So big thanks to Adobe for the recent updates that have meant that even more teamwork can take place within the applications. So to begin with, the editors get access to a back-end, a team management website that gives them all of the information on what they need to edit. And they can then access the different teams and request access to these Lightroom catalogs. Now, these Lightroom catalogs that are set up in Lightroom CC, and as the photos are uploaded by the team leaders and shared with the team, the rest of the editors are then given access to the particular folders. Now, because we haven't started yet this year, these are empty. Our teams start very, very soon with their photo shoots. But I'm going to show you the process of what an editor would do in this practice album here. So we have now access to a practice album where, for example, the editors might find this image, and then so that we know that it's been picked up by an editor, we're using the system in Lightroom Creative Cloud so that they can heart the particular image, so we know, and they can actually write a comment. So the editor would write claimed for edit, and that will show up, and it will actually have their name next to it because every single editor will log into this with their own Adobe access. So we know exactly who's picked up this image and who is working on it. If they have added this album, it will come up in their Lightroom Creative Cloud app. Now, this is mine and I have access to this practice album. I also have access still to all of my photos, 35,000 of them that I store in Lightroom Creative Cloud. I use Lightroom Creative Cloud to capture all of my stock, and so everything is in here. But I can access this shared album. This is shared by the Heart Project login, and I've given myself access through that to this album, and this would be shared with all of the editors. So an editor would go into this album, they would, as I said, heart that. So it's really important to be in the correct view in this case. The Masonite view like this does not show all of the information, but this particular view that has the 4 squares down the bottom shows whether there's a comment, whether there's a heart, and so forth. So if I double click this one, and I want to maybe find out the information on it, find out what the name of it is, and find out if there's any extra information, I can click on that. Now in the comments, we're adding extra information for our team members. The comments will also show whether a parent requested a particular background, whether they requested Santa, no Santa. So we have families who do want to show their images to the world and they sign the model release. And then we have families that need to keep their image private, and we put them into a different section later on in Lightroom. We can manage the catalogs really, really easily, and we can sort those ones into a separate folder so that they're never shown to the outside public. But the ones that want to be shared, we share them in a gallery so that other people can see and be inspired and encouraged by those images. I want to edit this in Photoshop. Most of the time when I'm talking about editing, I always recommend using a smart object and keeping all the raw data intact. But in this case, we're trying to streamline the process and make sure it's as easy as possible. So what's going to happen here is the editor will take this into Photoshop and will edit in Photoshop. That will actually flatten it as a TIFF. It won't be an editable RAW anymore. But the other thing that we are going to do before these images get to the editors is these will all be prepared ready. They'll be cropped so that there's no extra excess that needs to be cut out of the image. They will also be adjusted, and this usually means the highlight slider is down a little bit, the shadows is up, and we just make sure that the exposure and the white balance is correct. So that's going to happen before the editors even get to it. So what they'll see at this point then is the option to edit from this type of image. So they right click, edit in Photoshop. Now this downloads from the web, so depending on your connection, it can take a little while. Now, once it's in Photoshop, our editors now have an action set up specifically for Christmas Wish. And what this action does is it sizes the image for our backgrounds, it takes the green away, and it prepares this ready for them to add to their background that they choose. All the editor needs to do is run action first, press play, and it will magically do the rest. Now this is sized ready for the background. It's an 8:10 ratio or a 5:4, which means that it fits into standard frames. Now we have been using the Creative Cloud libraries, and we've set up a shared access for all Christmas Wish editors to this library, this Christmas Wish library, which means that you'll be able to get into this and grab whatever you need and completely just add it straight away. You can use the brushes from here, the assets, and as we add more and more will be added. We've also got so many new Santa images in here to choose from because we are in most cases not able to bring Santa to the hospital. So Santa has magically appeared in my studio and I've taken a whole lot more poses of him that can be added into the image. So some of them have been cut out, some of them are just against green screen, which again, you can use an action to cut him out quite quickly. Now let's just go into how we would add a background. Now this part is really important to take note of. When you go to the background plates, they are all set up with multiple layers in them. And what you shouldn't do is drag it straight on. If you drag this straight on, you would have to double click to open up all of the layers and you wouldn't be able to save this image of the child back into the same spot in the Lightroom catalog. So what we need to do is make sure that you're adding all of the layers into this file. So to do that, you need to go to the image you want, you right click it, and you place layers. Let's just make sure that you know how to do that. So first of all, you go into your library. You would find this in your library. Once you've added to it, you'll find Christmas Wish. And you need to then go into the background that you want, right click it, place layers. Not place link, not edit, none of those things, place layers. So now we have the background and we have our subject, which has been moved underneath. So we'll pull that in between the foreground and the chair. We can turn the extra chair off, but before we do that, we could resize our subject that has been photographed on the same chair so that we can get our perspective and angle and everything correct and our scale. So we can use that chair as a guide. It's not going to be exactly the same because it's been photographed at a separate time, but it's pretty close. So once that's in place, we can turn the chair off and then we can add the shadows, the lighting. Because the chair already had shadows, we could also turn off the chair itself and utilize the shadows from the other chair. So you can see the shadow is already there. So that makes it really easy if you've got a similar chair. We can add anything that we need. We are also using Pixel Squid, and really big thanks to Pixel Squid for helping out the Heart Project. So anything that you want to add to the scene, and there are so many Christmas decorations here. If I type Christmas, and even some of the pieces in this image are Pixel Squid, I'll let you try and work out which ones are. But if you want to add something from this Pixel Squid collection, so for an example, let's just click on this one. It downloads it as a 3D element, and you can move that around. Let's just hang them here for a moment. Now, of course, you'll need to add your particular shading and lighting, but the awesome thing about Pixel Squid is you can change the angle and the perspective as you would like to match where you're placing it in the scene. You can also turn the shadows off, which in this case we would because it's not on the ground. So we don't want shadows underneath it. And you can turn it on to high resolution. So I'll click on that and that will download the high resolution version, which is definitely something that you want to do to make sure that it doesn't look pixelated in the image. So don't forget to do that. You can even embed the smart object, and what that does is it gives you those separate layers. And if you're wanting to use something from that image, say the shadows, like perhaps a chair that might be similar to the chair that you've placed the element in, then you could in fact pull out that particular shadow so that you don't need to draw that in yourself. So now that is a smart object ready to move around to add shadows and so forth as you want. So Pixel Squid is fantastic. Now, as mentioned before, you might also want to add Santa from the library, and there are the ones that are already cut out and there are the ones that would need to be cut out. So to bring Santa in, what you can do is, if you've got one that's already cut out, you can just drag that in. And then you would do your shading, lighting and shadows as you need to match the scene. So it's really important that you work on those so that it becomes like it's part of that scene. Now, to finish off your image, what you now need to do is save that and go back into Lightroom. So this is the brilliant thing about the way we're working this year. It will automatically upload it to the Lightroom shared cloud there. So we're going to save that. Then we're going to close it and go back into our Lightroom library. And you'll see that it has been added there. So it says added by me in this case. It's also now uploading to the cloud and it is syncing. Please keep in mind, this is now uploading a layered file. It's uploading an editable layered TIFF. Now, the great thing about that is if in the process we need to do any edits, we need to go back to the editor and request some new edits, we can comment on that. So our people that are checking can make comments, say, yes, this is ready, or no, can you go and fix that? And because it is an editable TIFF with all of the layers intact, they can simply open it and see all of the changes that were made and all of the layers, edit, and save again. It will create another version of it, so they will show up in order of the edits, and we will then know which is the latest version and can sort that on the back end. So this is a really fantastic way of working for us this year with Christmas Wish, and it means that we really rectify the issues of sometimes people picking up the same image, getting so excited and so many people wanting to edit at the one time. We make sure that we can see what's going on in real time and that the team can see what's going on in real time, and that all of us can see the edits. So everyone that's working can be inspired by other people's work. The other benefit of that is that we can see which backgrounds are being used too much and which backgrounds haven't been used. So it's a fantastic way to work, and it's really going to make sure that Christmas Wish for those kids in hospitals all around the world this year, they're going to be the best ever. These are going to be magnificent images that I know the families are going to love and put up on their wall and treasure forever.